Southeast crater collapsed, resulting in hot lava flows. It was the 14th eruptive phase in recent months. Despite the fiery show, local officials say it posed no danger to the population. The area of danger was confined to the summit of Etna, which was closed to tourists as a precaution. Sicily's president says lava flows emitted in the eruption had not passed the natural containment area. I'm Ed Donahue.
A new report says a record 38 million metric tons of sargassum piled up across the Caribbean and nearby areas in May, with more expected this month. The brown, prickly algae is suffocating shorelines from Puerto Rico to Guyana, disrupting tourism, killing wildlife, and even releasing toxic gases. More at townhall.com. A Houston Astros pitcher gets an apology from a man who threatened his family.
A man who made online death threats aimed at the family of Astros pitcher Lance McCullers Jr. lives overseas and was intoxicated at the time. He told Houston police he was sorry for what he had done. McCullers received threats on social media directed at his children after a poor start against the Cincinnati Reds on May 10th. Police said the man who made the threats was identified during an investigation. Because no charges have been filed, police are not disclosing his identity or where he lives. Keith Peters, Washington.
The head of the U.S. Energy Department says President Trump wants to double the amount of oil coursing through Alaska's 800-mile pipeline system and build a massive natural gas export project as its twin. Energy Secretary Chris Wright visited Prudhoe Bay near the Arctic Ocean. More on these stories at townhall.com. I'm John Scott.
The following is an America Matters media production. The views expressed do not necessarily represent those of the station or its advertisers, although we think they should. But that's the opinion of America.
All right, folks, you certainly know what that theme song means by now. That's right. It's time for another episode of America Matters. I'm your host, Leo Zacky, and joining me today, I think, is Josh Patriciana. I think he's going to be on with us. I hope he's going to join us. Yeah, everybody, welcome to the show. It's Tuesday, June 3rd. I can't believe we're already in June, folks. This is it's kind of crazy to me to think about. We're already in June. We are way into this year. But before we start getting into anything here, I just wanted to give a big shout out, hello, welcome, and thank you to everybody out there tuning in on 93.7 KPGF, as well as AM 1060, and all the folks out there listening on the Answer Network, Salem Network, Radio for America. We got AUN Television, the Kevin Jackson Network. So thank you to everybody out there tuned in on those platforms, as well as all the folks on those networks that push this program. We're really excited to have all of you listening. Don't forget, you can always go to America Matters Media's Facebook page or LinkedIn page and watch it there. So we'd love to hear from you. Get involved in today's show, and also go to ZackyRadio.com, or you can go to Zacky Radio on YouTube or Rumble and get in with us there. But it looks like we got Richard with us today. Richard, welcome to America Matters, my friend.
Hey, Leo. Great to see you.
Likewise, brother. I think Josh is going to jump on with us. I can't tell if he is or not, but that's what we're hoping for. But we got a lot to talk about today, right? Well, we're going to talk about, the revolution engine, what social media gave us before Meta took it back, right?
Are we?
Are we?
Talking about some ag stuff.
Ag stuff, too. Okay, well, I'm getting all...
Hey, you know what? You shoot, and I will roll with it. How about that?
All right. Yeah. Oh, somebody's got their... is that your phone getting notifications I'm hearing ping?
Yeah, I think so. Sorry, let me just silence.
Put that on silent.
Yeah, it's my computer.
So, yeah, anyways. So, you're here with us today. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I've been involved in politics since about the 2008 presidential cycle. I came in with the Ron Paul movement. I worked my way up kind of through multiple campaigns in the Capitol. helped a lot of Liberty First candidates or Freedom First candidates get into office and push a lot of really good policy in California, which I know is kind of a, people think good policy doesn't come out of the state, and most of the time they're right. But I think we're able to do some good things for the state, however minor they were. After that, I moved over to the nonprofit sector, and I became the vice president of programs for Firearms Policy Coalition, where we pushed a Pro 2A agenda nationally through lawfare and a lot of grassroots action. And then since then, I founded my own company, Imperium Strategic Group, where we help those same kind of candidates that I came into the politics and the movement with, Freedom First candidates, liberty-minded candidates like yourself, people that are trying to push common sense policies and try to get them elected and get them to win. And then just kind of as a little offshoot, I have a little ranch up in the Northern California foothills, cows, horses, and
Fantastic. Well, you are definitely someone entrenched in politics, someone who's passionate about this country, and obviously the Second Amendment. I'm a huge fan of that as well. So I'm glad that we have you on here with us and you get involved in politics. I wish more people would get involved in politics in some capacity. You have to pay attention to what's going on, right?
Oh, 100%. And I think a lot of folks just think, they can vote and they vote for whatever, party they think is doing the right thing, whether that's Democrat, Republican, whatever. And they don't actually follow along. It's boring or it's whatever. And I think we've seen that change a lot recently with Trump in office, and a lot more common sense folks like yourself getting involved that can help push these issues and take these maybe harder to understand policy issues and chop them up into bite-sized pieces for folks to actually digest.
Yeah. No, that's important. A lot of folks are so tuned out, and most of them only get a little headline, and that's all they latch onto, and they don't do any research. But so many times under the surface of what that headline is a totally different subject.
100%. And I mean, I'll give you an example. Back when I worked in the legislature, I worked for Assemblymember Tim Donnelly. I was his chief of staff. We would have the teachers unions come in, and they would throw a fit, and they would be cussing at us and yelling at us. They would come into my office, yell in my face, spit in my face, whatever. And, talking about how the Republicans were going to make all these cuts and we were jeopardizing the future of education and blah, 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 yada, 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 right? The reality was they were just sold a bunch of BS from their union leaders, from their Democratic Party leaders. And, the Republicans were the ones that were actually trying to save these budgets, and the Democrats were making these massive cuts to, on the ground teachers to fund the administration, et cetera. They didn't know that. You had these lobbyists coming in, making a scene, and they had no idea what was actually going on. It was actually really sad.
Well, lobbyists, unfortunately,
citizen lobbyists, I should say, citizen lobbyists, right? They were teachers. They were people that took time off of work to come in because they thought we were the evil big bad Republicans trying to take away their pensions and take away their supplies and whatnot. And really,
have we ever done that?
No. And really, it was the Democrats actually taking some of that budget and redirecting it to, the administration, right? The bureaucrats in charge of education, and then also for, funding school for illegal immigration as well. Not to totally get into that subject, but
that's a whole nother thing.
Yeah.
But it's always projection from the left. That's the one thing I've certainly learned is always projection. They say what they're doing and they blame it on the other side.
100%. They can't actually admit what they're doing. Otherwise, they're not going to get elected. They're not going to be in power, especially in this state where you have a supermajority. And really, I mean, at that time, and it's gotten even worse now, the Republicans in the legislature didn't have a ton of power. We, at least at that point, had 2/3 majority and could stop tax increases. Nowadays, I mean, the Democrats basically get whatever policy they want, and somehow they blame these meek, feckless Republicans, and they just kind of take the mantle of being to blame. They let the Democrats do that to them. It's really sad.
Well, that is the case. So, look, when we get back, we're going to jump into talking on another subject here. Leo Zacky with Richard today, and we'll be back.
At A Proper Fit Footwear in the Reno Town Mall, we've been accomplishing happy feet for over 30 years.
We offer a various range of shoe styles and sizes for both men and women. From all-season shoes and orthotics to work boots and safety shoes, our professional and reliable staff possesses the knowledge to help you find the proper shoes to fit your needs. Hard to fit? Hard to find?
A Proper Fit Footwear is here to give our customers happy feet. We make people aware of potential foot problems as we're sizing their feet, suggesting the right arch support, and guiding them to the proper shoes for their needs.
Stop by A Proper Fit Footwear at 4001 South Virginia Street in the Reno Town Mall today, and allow the owner Mike Jones and our fabulous staff to find the perfect pair of shoes tailored to your specific needs.
A Proper Fit Footwear in the Reno Town Mall, the home of happy feet, where comfort and your feet meet.
Okay, we are running a car drive right now to help veterans all across America. So if you have an old car, truck, or van, even a motorcycle or an RV sitting around, you can right now give it away and help the vets. They really need your help. And your car will help support the vets and their families. And guess what? You even get a tax donation. Plus, we'll even come and pick up your car for free. And all you've got to do is pick up your phone right now and make a free call. Now is the perfect time to do something good for the vets. Give back to the vets right now for all they've done for this country. And your old car can really help them. So call the Veterans Car Donation Program right now for free pickup of your vehicle. Help the vets and help your taxes at the same time. Call right now.
800-296-1259. 800-296-1259. 800-296-1259. That's 800-296-1259.
Want to expand your advertising dollar? Sponsor this or any America Matters program by calling 775-827-8900, extension 2. Now back to the show.
All right, folks, we are back with America Matters. I'm your host, Leo Zacky, and joining me today is Richard, and we are so glad to have him here with us. And, I wanted to kind of segue into another subject here and talk about what's going on in South Africa. Now, you might have heard that recently Donald Trump brought in some white refugees to this country from South Africa, and it kind of made the left angry because they were white, right? Can't take in white people, God forbid, right? We got to take in the rest of the world. But what's going on in South Africa, to what a lot of people don't know, is there's a huge racial propaganda machine going after the white farmers in South Africa, and a country that at least we all thought had, first world, potential. I don't know. What would you say on that? I thought they were a first world country, right?
Yeah. I mean, definitely one of the most successful African countries for sure.
Oh, for sure. The most successful on the continent. No doubt about it. Well, now it's a country that is starving because they are chasing out and killing the farmers in that country. And there are land seizures, mob attacks, torture, and it's all targeting white farmers. And it's being allowed to take place because the government there is allowing this hateful rhetoric to be spread. So people are getting their land confiscated without compensation. Their families are being terrorized. And where's the Western media, right? Completely silent. Global governments, complicit. And it took Donald Trump to break the silence. So years ago, 7 years ago, in fact, in 2018, he tweeted that he was asking the Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, to look into the large-scale killing of farmers and the seizure of land from white farmers. And guess what? Of course, the media screamed conspiracy. And then Trump did something that nobody expected. He sat face-to-face with South Africa's president. So let's play that clip real quick.
Turn the lights down. Turn the lights down and just put this on. It's right behind you. Johan.
There's nothing this parliament can do.
Who will explode
expropriate land without compensation, whether they like it or not. If they object, they can seek refugee in America.
Now this is very bad. These are burial sites right here. Burial sites. Over 1,000 of white farmers, and those cars are lined up to pay love on a Sunday morning. Each one of those white things you see is a cross, and there's approximately 1,000 of them. They're all white farmers, the family of white farmers. And those cars aren't driving, they're stopped there to pay respects to their family member who's killed. And it's a terrible sight. I've never seen anything like it. Both sides of the road, you have crosses.
How about that? Now, before we go any further, Richard, I want to bring in here. You worked on the ground in American politics. You've run major campaigns, but you're also a rancher who understands what it means to live off the land. And when you see what's happening in South Africa, when the government not only looks the other way, but encourages radicalized land theft, what goes through your mind?
Yeah, I mean, it's really horrifying, isn't it? And I mean, you could probably speak on this too from your history with Zacky Farms and basically, I won't represent, you guys had obviously a huge operation, and I just have a little cattle ranch up here in the foothills of California. So, we're not feeding the country, so to speak, right? But it's really horrifying, and it's not spontaneous. It's Marxist ideology in action. You destroy private property, you punish success, and then you justify it all through this radical racial rhetoric that, these people are bad or evil, or they don't deserve what they have because of some made up, communist ideology, and that's playing out before our eyes there. It's really insane. And, the other thing that I think about too is, we aren't seeing the violence like this in California, obviously, but you are seeing bits and pieces of this play out right here in California as well, with eminent domain taking place and farms being taken because of, these stupid government projects like high-speed rail. That's obviously going to go nowhere. But you know what? We've destroyed a bunch of farms along the way. We've taken away a bunch of families' history and tradition in order to build this, this high-speed boondoggle that's going to go nowhere. You see it in the climate action right now. All this kind of relates back to the Marxism that we're seeing in South Africa. Again, it's just not as violent. But these farms are being turned into dust bowls because of government inaction, or even sometimes government action on denying these people water and destroying their livelihoods. So, we're seeing, unfortunately, a lesser version of this play out right here in the state.
Yeah, but it's so crazy because this country it's most known for apartheid, right?
Yeah.
The segregation of the whites and the blacks, and how it's completely flipped. But you didn't see violence during apartheid from whites on blacks, but you're seeing it here now in South Africa. I find that interesting because it's not talked about, and everybody's left silent on this issue because it's violence taking place against white people, so that's okay.
Right. Well, and it's not just that, right? I think you're seeing this leftist violence not being talked about anywhere. I mean, Minneapolis basically burned to the ground, or sections of it were burned to the ground during the riots. You had the same problem in DC and basically every major city, during Trump's first term, right? And how much of that was really talked about in the media and was really pushed as, this is terrible? It wasn't.
Well, it was mostly peaceful.
Right. It was mostly peaceful. And this is probably just mostly peaceful killing of farmers. So it's probably fine, right?
Yeah, torture, that's mostly peaceful.
Yeah. And, I know the media is saying that this isn't happening, or it's not happening to the extent that, Trump is saying, or some of these other sources are saying. And even if that's the case, let's agree with them for a minute. Even if that happened to one or two individuals in this country and it was the opposite happening, how much news would that make? It would make massive headlines across it.
You wouldn't know what the government is doing. You would just know that everybody's upset about this one issue, and they would replay the tape over and over and 100%. Over again.
100%. 100%.
Until you understood that you repeat their narrative.
Right.
You are part of the problem.
Right. You're part of the problem, and the other side is mostly peaceful. And even if they're coming to steal your land or steal your property, or, you know, whether it's through the guise of high-speed rail or the guise of some terrible racial policy that, you know, I think the guy's the vice president, the guy that is singing the Kill the Boers song, right? I think
Is that the vice president?
Well, I read an article. It was in 2023. I think he was either going to become the vice president or was the vice president. I'm not sure. But, you know, this guy is singing these songs about basically kill the white farmers.
Yeah.
And
Kill the white farmer. That's like, I've literally watched the video. Like, I've seen it. I've heard it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure we could probably cue it up for the audience too. But I mean, it's you know, what the left says Donald Trump says, it doesn't hold a candle to what this guy has done.
No, not even close. So, yeah, now that we've this footage here of you know, Trump playing the video for the South African president, and showing the evidence of white farmers that have been slaughtered and had their land stolen, and the left saying, "Oh well, you know, they're trying to nitpick everything." Well, those weren't burial sites; those were just memorial things, and you know, just nitpicking every little thing. It's like, what about the fact that the truth is that these murders are taking place? This race-based violence is taking place in South Africa. You know,
100%. And every other time we've had race-based violence, what, you know, I mean, I don't know. I know there's hesitancy to call it a genocide, right? But every time, let's just say the word genocide, every time that's actually happened across the globe, it's not like we had some running ticker of numbers that were happening in real time, right? We only found out about a lot of this stuff after the fact, or, you know, whether that was the Holocaust or Rwanda, or, you know, pick your mass killing of folks, right? And in Cambodia, the elites in Cambodia, right? Like, it's not like the government.
A lot more, but yeah.
Right. It's not like this government had this ticker. They didn't have a clock that was running up the numbers of everybody that they killed or they were encouraging to be killed. We only find out about that after. So, you know, I think it's really hypocritical of the media to say, like, oh, nothing's happening. It's only been a few people that have died. Oh, it's just also been a few people that have been totally.
But they're saying it was an ambush that Trump ambushed the South African president. I mean, here, we got a little clip here. I'll take a listen to that.
To the dramatic scene in the Oval Office today, the tense confrontation, President Trump ambushing the president of South Africa.
Next, another Oval Office meltdown, President Trump ambushing the president of South Africa.
President Trump is being accused of conducting something of a diplomatic ambush of South Africa's president in the Oval Office.
To be with you, I'm Katie Tur. President Trump orchestrated another Oval Office ambush today.
Today, Donald Trump meeting with the president of South Africa and attempting to ambush and humiliate that leader.
Zelensky territory, where essentially he was a bit ambushed inside the Oval Office.
Felt like an ambush in there, kind of like the President Zelensky meeting in the Oval Office.
This was an ambush. It was orchestrated.
Cyril Ramaphosa brought his best diplomatic self to this meeting, but nothing could have prepared him for this multimedia ambush.
What started as, to some degree, an ambush.
Well, Katie, I mean, it wasn't ambush.
Ambush.
Ambushed.
Ambush.
An ambush.
Ambushing.
Ambushed inside the Oval Office.
I'm glad MSDNC was able to get all their talking points out to all their friends.
Of course. I mean, you know, look, follow the narrative, you know?
Right.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
Right.
I'm referencing another, you know, mass statement that all the news networks put out. If you don't know that reference, you should. The media, mainstream media, is complete bullcrap. It has been for a long time, and when Trump says it's fake news, he means it. It really is. But that's the reaction. They didn't focus on the attacks. They focused on the outrage against Trump holding the president of South Africa accountable for the violence taking place in his country.
Well, I mean, they had to, right? Because it broke their script. I mean, you have the media class that's invested in this radical Marxist ideology. And if somebody, especially on the stage of Trump, is actually challenging this, they have to make him look like a crazy. They have to try to do whatever they can to make it look like Trump's the extremist. Trump's insane. He's just calling out, these terrible things happening in a different country. But whatever. It doesn't go along with the script. So,
Right.
he's the bad guy.
Right. Because, when it's about protecting global ideology,
right.
One that says if a white farmer is killed, well, it's contextual, it's complicated, or it's a legacy of colonialism. But if you ever mention it, anything like that, well, you're a racist.
Right.
So, look, we got to take our bottom of the hour break. When we get back, I want to talk a little bit more about this and then get on to another subject. I'm Leo Zacky with Richard today. We'll be right back.
I'm Andrew Saul, Commissioner of Social Security. I'm here to warn you about telephone scammers pretending to be government employees. Some of these scammers may say threatening things like you will be arrested if you don't make payments or provide personal information. Do not fall for these tricks. These calls are not from us. Real Social Security employees will never threaten you for information or money. If you receive a call like this, hang up. Never give the caller your personal information, like your Social Security number or bank account, or send money in any form, cash, gift cards, wire transfers, or prepaid debit cards. Report the call to our law enforcement arm, the Office of the Inspector General, at oig.ssa.gov. Share this information with your friends and family.
In times of market volatility, it can be a good reminder to revisit your financial strategies to make sure they align with your goals. Call 775-674-2222 or visit nvretirementplanners.com. Advisory services are offered through Nevada Retirement Planners, an investment advisor in the state of Nevada. Any insurance products and services are offered through Nevada Senior Advisors. Nevada Retirement Planners are not affiliated with or endorsed by the Social Security Administration or any government agency. Nevada Retirement Planners does not provide legal or tax advice.
Have you been injured in an accident? Trust Adriana Guzman-Freilich at AGF Law, your local personal injury law firm in Reno. At AGF Law, we pride ourselves on being honest, hardworking, and ethical. Let's meet in person to understand your case and fight for your rights. Located near South Virginia and Plum, we're always ready to help. Don't navigate the aftermath of an accident alone. Call Adriana at 775-453-9595 or visit adrianalegal.com. Your recovery is our priority, and we're committed to getting you the justice you deserve.
Unable to listen to the whole show? A recording of today's program will be available later today. Visit americamatters.us and click on the podcast link. Now back to the show.
All right, folks, we are back with America Matters. I'm your host, Leo Zacky. Joining me today is Richard Thomson. So glad to have him with us. And we've been talking about the reverse apartheid going on in Africa and how the media, they just hate Trump and that's all they're going to focus on. Who cares about the dying and murdered and tortured people over there? But let's focus on Donald Trump and how he's always the bad guy. So,
well, Trump has to be the bad guy, right? Otherwise, if you have genocide or racial violence or Marxist stealing of property, if Trump wasn't the bad guy, then they have to be the bad people, right?
Of course. Well, that's what it is. So, apartheid. Let's talk about the American style version, right? You've seen the pattern by now, right? South Africa's government targets white folk. Trump calls it out. The media loses it. I don't know where that sound's coming from.
Yeah, I don't either.
Okay. Anyways, so Trump calls out the South African government is targeting white farmers. The media loses it, and it's not about the violence. It's the fact that somebody showed it, right? Because the world didn't really know about it. I mean, South Africans sure as hell knew about it, but the rest of the world probably didn't know. I've known about it because I actually pay attention to what's going on around the world. Most people are just focused on, what bag of weed should I buy today, or what beer should I drink? So what if I told you that this same warped ideology and racial revenge was dressed up as equity, right? And it was written into American law in 2021. Let's talk about the Biden farm loan forgiveness scandal. You know about this one at all, Richard?
Yeah. definitely. And I think there was a major lawsuit over it as well.
Yes, there was. So under the American Rescue Plan and Section 1005, the USDA rolled out a program to forgive up to 120% of federal farm loans. Does that make sense? Well, that extra 20% is supposed to cover tax liability. Sounds good, right? Well, here's a problem. The program explicitly excluded, and wait for it, white farmers. How about that? Because this was only for those that were considered socially disadvantaged. Blacks, Hispanics, Native Americans, Asian Americans, or Pacific Islanders could apply for this. If your ancestors came from Europe, well, guess what? You're SOL because you got white skin, so you can't get a part of that. You're locked out. So it didn't matter if your farm was bankrupt. Didn't matter if you lost everything during the scamdemic. You were denied for being the wrong race. Richard, you're a rancher. What would it feel like being on the brink of losing your operation? Because I know what it's like. I've been there. I've been forced out of business. I really wish I had that opportunity, but shoot, guess I was the wrong color skin for that opportunity.
And you probably didn't make it through the pandemic, right?
We didn't even make it to the start of the scamdemic.
Right.
Yeah, that's how bad the state runs our government and hates farmers.
Yeah, 100%. No, I mean, it's crazy, right? Like you survive all these crazy things and whether it was the COVID or the pandemic or whatever you want to call it, right? Like it literally happened. Okay. Did the government force a lot of issues there? Yeah, of course it did. But you survive through that. You survive all these issues with inflation. You survive all these issues with drought. And then, you're just trying to make ends meet and make sure your family has food on the table. And what you're just told, sorry, you don't qualify because you're not DEI enough.
Yeah. You're too white. Sorry.
Yeah.
Your white privilege prevents you from this opportunity.
Yeah.
How's it feel? How's it feel, Mr. White Privilege, to be excluded? Now you know what all these other minorities suffer through all the time because, screw and, meritocracy. It's not about that.
Right.
About your skin color. We already discussed this back in the 60s.
When they're using these race issues to punish people who literally have done nothing wrong, right? They buried this in a bill, and I don't know how long the bill was, but I'm assuming it was probably at least hundreds of pages, if not thousands of pages, because that's usually what Congress does, is they bury this stuff in there. And nobody knows what they're voting on, right? I mean, it's the whole Nancy Pelosi. You got to vote for the bill to find out what's in it. I'm sure there's people that voted for this that had no idea this was even in there.
Right. And then comes the legal fallout because they didn't know what they were doing, but somebody's going to figure it out. And guess what? White farmers across multiple states filed lawsuits, and they did it pretty damn quickly. And the judges responded with restraining orders, injunctions, and even full-on rulings that this program violated Equal Protection Clause.
Right.
And one judge in Florida said the program, and I quote, appears to be a strong case of race-based discrimination. Well, no flippin' snip. Obviously it is. So another Wisconsin judge said it did irreparable harm to white farmers and unfairly excluded them. And again, irreparable harm, okay, by the federal government in 2021 in America based on the color of your skin. I thought we got past this.
Right. I thought this was all settled.
Right. Right. And now the Biden administration defended it, right? They're saying, well, it was meant to correct systemic racism. I hate when I talk to these fecal libs because I can't use the proper term. And they always bring up systemic racism. Well, there's a systemic racism in our country, and the programs that we have are systemically racist. It's like that mindset is systemically racist.
Right.
What happened to like, I'm an American, you're an American. I don't care what your little religion, badge is. I don't care what color your skin is. Do you do a good job? Are you a good person? That's all I care about.
Well, and even just like, let's play with their system for a minute and just look at the demographics of things. This literally, I mean, we'll take, Iowa, Wisconsin, any state in the north, kind of central north of this country, right? There's probably not a huge need for this program in those areas, but yet you're going to totally exclude these breadbasket states from being able to qualify for this because of racism, when there probably really aren't that many black farmers in these areas anyway. I mean, we're not talking about the South here. You're talking about, Wisconsin and dairy farms, or corn in, Iowa, Illinois, et cetera. Like, you're not talking about Alabama, South Carolina, North Carolina, et cetera. And you're just totally, if this program was implemented, it would have ruined the lives of a lot of people in those states that literally are just trying to survive. And probably not a lot of other folks in the state would have even qualified for this program anyway.
Right. But you don't fight what they say, what they claim to be a problem with systemic racism with more racism.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying just the idea.
No, but that's the whole point. That's the flaw in this whole left, mindset, is that you don't end racism with more racism.
Right.
I forget I think it was Morgan Freeman who said it best. He's like, because he was getting interviewed by, I forget who, some guy, I think it was on 60 Minutes or something like that. And they were bringing up the race thing. He's like, how about we just stop talking about it? Just, you want to end racism? Stop talking about it.
Well, and I think we're at a point in America today where if you time warp the civil rights leaders of the 60s into, present day America, I think they'd be really, I was going to say something, but I think they'd be really upset by what they see, because they fought against these policies. They wanted inclusion. They didn't want segregation. They didn't want anybody to be apart or separated by these stupid ideologies that skin color somehow separates you and makes you better, makes you worse, etc. That's not what they fought for. I think you'd have a lot of really upset folks from the civil rights movement if they were involved in this today.
I agree. And the fact that they want to punish people for what somebody else did, who they're probably not even related to, decades ago, that's not justice.
No, it's not justice. And, again, I don't want to play their game, but I'm sorry, a corn farmer in Iowa probably, even if their family had owned the land for 200 years, probably didn't have a lot to do with where they're getting these roots of injustice from, right? Pre-Civil War era America, they probably didn't have a lot to do with any of that.
Exactly. Hell, Iowa wasn't even a state, I don't think, during the Civil War.
No, I don't think it was either.
But that's the whole thing. It's like, what about folks that came here after the Civil War that never owned slaves, that happened to get into agriculture? I don't know, people like my family. Right. We're just blanketed in. It's so ridiculous.
Sorry, you lost the DEI lottery.
Shoot! And here, 4 generations of being in California, my body's adapted, and I get nice tans from being in the sun. Does that not qualify me? I'm melanin?
It probably qualifies you more than me, because I still turn into a tomato. So,
well, generations of being in California will do this to you. You'll get there. So, what's going on? It's like what's happening here. It's kind of like it's very similar to what's going on in South Africa, except the violence component. Right. They wrap it up in feel good words like inclusion and equity and corrective justice. But at the core of it, all I'm seeing is reverse apartheid.
Yeah. It's de facto segregation, right? They're basically creating a segregated society that they fought against. Nelson Mandela fought against that, right? And now, umpteen years later, 20, 30 years later, we're going to reverse that. Like, it makes absolutely zero sense. It's the same as, all the segregation that they're trying to push on the U.S. It makes no sense when you had these civil rights icons fight against this same garbage, and now the leftists and the Marxists in power, or at least in government positions, are trying to force it down our throats, force feed it on us.
But look who's getting hurt. It's just real people getting hurt. Real farmers are being left in the dust while the bureaucrats and the consultants, they all cash their checks and they move on because they help push this bill forward. They don't care.
No, they don't care. They want to make a living. They want to get a paycheck. And I'm sure some of them really believe in this warped, twisted ideology too.
That's
you know,
that's the scariest part.
It is. They want to see America fall. And I'm not saying everything we've talked about today would lead to the downfall of kind of our government structure and our beliefs and our principles, but it's sure definitely a plank of that platform to do so.
Yeah. Well, look, the government here is, well, our government under the Trump administration is better off. It's not perfect, but it's got a lot of damage to undo that the Biden administration done.
Yeah.
And look, it's affecting everywhere, and it's not. People need to know what's going on in DC, but it's not just what's happening there. It's the things that are affecting the Central Valley, the Sierra Foothills, the Great Plains. This fight is national, but the impact is local. And it's your land, it's your family, it's your legacy. And now the government wants to make you a second-class citizen on your own property? Where do we go from here? So, look, we're going to take our last break here in America Matters. But we get back, I'm going to lay the path forward on what happens if we stay silent and what happens when we stand up. I'm Leo Zacky with Richard Thomson. We'll be right back.
At A Proper Fit Footwear in the Reno Town Mall, we've been accomplishing happy feet for over 30 years.
We offer a various range of shoe styles and sizes for both men and women. From all-season shoes and orthotics to work boots and safety shoes, our professional and reliable staff possesses the knowledge to help you find the proper shoes to fit your needs. Hard to fit? Hard to find?
A Proper Fit Footwear is here to give our customers happy feet. We make people aware of potential foot problems as we're sizing their feet, suggesting the right arch support, and guiding them to the proper shoes for their needs.
Stop by A Proper Fit Footwear at 4001 South Virginia Street in the Reno Town Mall today, and allow the owner Mike Jones and our fabulous staff to find the perfect pair of shoes tailored to your specific needs.
A Proper Fit Footwear in the Reno Town Mall, the home of happy feet, where comfort and your feet meet.
I used to love going for long walks, but my back just doesn't cooperate like it used to.
Same here. But ever since I started a routine with Active Life Integrated Health on Moana Lane, I feel more flexible and in control. You should check them out.
This is Dr. Tom Waldorf. Let's make it happen so you can feel better naturally. To schedule the beginning of your transformation, call 775-842-0065 or visit activelifereno.com online.
Have you been injured in an accident? Trust Adriana Guzman-Freilich at AGF Law, your local personal injury law firm in Reno. At AGF Law, we pride ourselves on being honest, hardworking, and ethical. Let's meet in person to understand your case and fight for your rights. Located near South Virginia and Plum, we're always ready to help. Don't navigate the aftermath of an accident alone. Call Adriana at 775-453-9595 or visit adrianalegal.com. Your recovery is our priority, and we're committed to getting you the justice you deserve.
Are you shy and don't want to talk on the air? Text us your questions or comments to 775-237-2266. Now back to the show.
All right, folks, we are back with America Matters. I'm Leo Zacky, and joining me today is my great guest, Richard Thomson. I'm so glad he's with us today. He's a rancher. He's an ag. I've been an ag. I was a chicken farmer. My family did that for 90 years, and we're talking about what's been going on around the world and here at home. But now that we've kind of seen the whole picture, in South Africa, you got farmers being killed and stripped of their land based on race. And, the world just looks the other way. The media shifts our focus elsewhere, and they block that out. So it's not necessarily your fault. It's definitely the globalist media's fault on that one. I'll give you a slide there. But here in the U.S., the Biden administration tried to write rate-based revenge into federal law, offering help to everyone except white farmers. Well, of course, until the court slammed the brakes when they felt brave enough after the Biden administration was gone. And then the media, well, what do you expect? They didn't report on it. They didn't investigate it. They're not looking into, who put that into the bill and how could any congressman pass that? No, they just spun the truth. And they demonized the whistleblowers. They protected the narrative. Par for the course, right? But here's the question, and this is what matters. What happens next? Because we're not just the observers in the story. We're the participants. If we say nothing, if we let them push the ideology into every level of government, then what we're seeing right now isn't even close to being the summit of all of this. It's just another peak on the way up this mountain of crap and Marxism. So first, they take the land. Then they take the access to credit away. Then they take water and energy and the ability to produce your own food away. And they call it justice because that's what they think justice is. Making people pay for the crimes that their ancestors may or may not have committed as they view history through a 21st century lens. That's not equity, okay? That's engineered collapse. But it's not inevitable. We can stop this, okay? Look, Richard, you've helped liberty-minded candidates and causes and push back against this kind of nonsense across the country, right? You know,
Totally.
what do you say to the folks out there who are watching this or listening and, you know, they feel like it's already too late?
I mean, I think the most important thing to tell people is it's really not too late, but the longer they wait, it's only going to make it harder, right? The extremists that are pushing this ideology are betting on people to give up, that they're going to be exhausted. You have a family to come home to, you have a job to do, you have, if you're a rancher or farmer, you have to be up before sunlight, and you don't come back until the sun sets, right? Maybe you're working 2 jobs, right? I hear you. I was just fixing some fences earlier today, actually. You're working multiple jobs. You have all these things going on, right? You don't have enough time to pay attention to politics, right? They want you to be exhausted. They don't want you to show up at your school board meeting. They don't want you to show up at the county board of supervisors. They don't want you to show up at the state assembly or senate. They don't want you, following what Congress is doing. They just want you to give up. And giving up is probably the most detrimental thing anybody can do. It's only too late if people decide it's too late.
Yeah, but it's not too late. It's urgent that we get activated right now.
Yeah.
So let's talk about what happens if we stand up, and I believe in we the people, but it's going to take y'all to get informed. And that's what America Matters is here to help do, is get y'all informed. So here in California, we've got the resources to feed the country, the power grid, and we lead the world in agriculture innovation. But Sacramento's killing us with water mismanagement, climate overreach, and racial bean counting. So, as governor, I will fix this absolute water disaster, the artificial man-made drought, by building reservoirs, repairing the infrastructure, and we're going to stop wasting millions, if not billions of gallons on a broken ecosystem. We're going to protect every farmer, regardless of race. Sorry, Marxists. I like food. I don't like starvation. I don't like famine. I don't like Holodomors. Okay? There will be no more racial quotas. There's going to be no more exclusion. Okay? You want to raise crops? We're going to help you do it. We got to slash the regulations. The things that make it impossible for family farms to survive. Kind of like what happened to mine. But it's happening to others too. I'm just one great prime example of what happens with that. But we have to expose every agency, too, that's playing into this identity politics with your future. And guess what? I ain't afraid to say it. Race should never be the bias for aid, for loans, for land, or for law. Okay? Not here, not now, and not ever again. Richard, I got one last question for you here, bud. You've lived this fight. Not just politics, but in the dirt, in the dust, of real life. You mentioned it yourself. You're out there putting up fence posts just this morning. What's your message to the people right now listening who are still on the fence saying, I don't want to be political, but, This doesn't feel right. Something's off. I'm just afraid.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's going to sound trite, and I know it's been said a million times, but like, you don't have to love politics, right? But if you own land, you run a business, you want to raise your family the way you want to raise your family, like, politics is going to come for you regardless of whether you want to deal with it or not, right? It's about control for them, and they want to control every aspect of your life. And it's not going to go away unless we stand up. And pretending it'll go away on its own, you're hoping, you're hoping for something that is as fantastical as something Disney Studios is going to put out, right? It's not based in reality at all. They're going to come for you regardless of whether you want them to or not. So if you want to stand up for your family, your land, your business, your future, the future for your kids, like, you got to get involved. Before I'll say anything else, just let me say one more thing too. I've worked with a lot of folks in the liberty movement and politics, et cetera, through my work with FPC. And I will say I've worked on, gubernatorial campaigns, presidential campaigns, whatever. If you live in California and you're listening to this right now, and you aren't going to be voting for Leo Zacky, you really need to re-examine your priorities. He's probably the best, and I'm talking about you like you're not in the room here, Leo. You are the best person to put forth the common sense solutions that I've seen this cycle and I've seen in a long time. So it would be a shame if people who are listening to this program don't, and they're on the fence of who to vote for, they're going to be considered voting for somebody else. They don't do the research that they need to do to find out more about you.
I appreciate that, Richard, and that's true. I mean, a lot of folks, they just like, oh, who's the, don't forget, the same media that lied to you about, the scamdemic and get the injection and, 15 days to stop the spread. The same people that pushed all that fake narrative, right? Are the ones that are pushing these other bogus candidates that have no business being in this race whatsoever.
Totally. And it is bogus, and they don't have ideas or solutions. They have talking points. And,
that aren't original, by the way.
No. I mean, it's the same failed policies that the Republican Party has been running for the last 30 years that caused them to go from one seat short of a majority in the early 90s to now being, 75% Democrat?
Yep.
Ridiculous. So we don't need more of that.
Right. Well, the reality is it's not left or right. And I have to always stress this, folks. It's not left or right anymore. It's not Democrat, Republican, okay? It's about being free versus being controlled, okay? That's what's happening right now. If you work hard and you raise a family and you pay your bills and you want to be left alone, or you aspire to do any of those things, well, guess what? You're not the only one they're targeting, okay? Because you don't need them, and they hate that. They want to keep you under their control. So here's the deal. If we keep letting them divide us by race, we lose. If we keep letting them censor the truth, we lose. But if we stand together unapologetically, black, white, brown, whatever, okay, we win. Because that's not what they can handle. They can't handle unity as much as they talk about it, because this country wasn't built on quotas, okay? It was built on courage, all right? And now it's our turn to stand up and fight back. And the way you're going to do that is you got to get involved right now, and I'm going to humbly ask you all to go to my website, leozacky.com, sign up. Please share this episode with at least 3 people who still believe in the equal treatment under law. Show up to your local city council, school board, water board, whatever. Run if you have to, because I'm telling you, the people in charge right now suck. You can do a better job. If you think they're doing a crap job, they probably are. You can do better. I guarantee it. That's pretty much the motivation for me to run for office here anyways. So if you're tired of playing defense, join this movement here. Help us take back California, and don't let the elites get the final word. Make sure that we have it. Let's make it count. Let's turn California red. I want to thank all of you for tuning in to America Matters today. Thank you so much, Richard, for joining us.
Yeah, thanks,